Why do some small nonprofits seem to have thousands of supporters eagerly giving to support their cause, while other nonprofits barely scrape by? Why do some nonprofits seem to have the Midas touch, easily raising money to fund their operations, while others never seem to be able to raise more than nickels and dimes? And why are some nonprofits so lucky at finding big donors, while others are lost and unsure of what to do next to reach their fundraising goals? In this free workshop, I'll share the answers to these questions and more so you can learn to raise the money you need to fully fund your nonprofit's important work. Hi, I'm Sandy Reese, founder of Fundraising TV and international fundraising coach. Welcome to my brand new video workshop, Fundraising Breakthrough. In this first video, you're going to discover a 3-part fundraising system for creating predictable, sustainable revenue for your new, young, or small nonprofit. This system is going to eliminate any confusion and overwhelm you might have about where to start raising money. Once you get this down, you'll have less stress over money and more confidence about your abilities to fundraise. Plus, you'll see more donations start to roll in. So if you're the founder of a new nonprofit but you aren't sure where to start or what to do to raise consistent income, or if you're the director of a small nonprofit that isn't raising enough money to cover expenses, stay with me because you're going to discover how to put a donor-based fundraising system in place that will change the game for your nonprofit and why it's critical that you get this handled right now. The goal of this workshop is simple: to help you learn to raise the money you need to fully fund your nonprofit's work without begging, without tons of little fundraisers or events, and without selling your soul. Because the truth is, when you raise more money, you can change more lives, and that's why your nonprofit exists. Today, I'll show you the first step in the system so you can get started building a big, loyal donor base of people who love your nonprofit's work. Having that large donor family will give you a greater sense of confidence in your ability to raise money this month, next month, and every month afterward. Are you ready to make this happen? Before we dig in, I've got to warn you about something that's critically important. Not paying attention to this virtually guarantees you'll be frustrated with lackluster fundraising results. Right now, you might think you have to operate your nonprofit on a shoestring, never really having enough money to cover all your costs. But what if it didn't have to be that way? What if instead you had all the money you needed to easily pay for all your expenses? I get that this may be pretty different from what you've heard before about nonprofit fundraising. Most people think that nonprofits are supposed to struggle and beg for anything they get, but it's just not true. When you surround yourself with the right people, they want to help you succeed. They want to see you change more lives, and they'll give big and give frequently to make it happen. This fundamental shift is the reason why this system works so well. If you've already tried finding big donors, you might have found out that it's not as easy as it looks, and there are a few reasons why you weren't able to find the right people. Today, you'll see how to do this in a whole new way. I'm sure you'll agree, fundraising for your nonprofit, especially learning to raise the money you need to fully fund your nonprofit's work, isn't always as simple as some people make it seem. It comes with its challenges. Like maybe you procrastinate calling a donor because you're uncomfortable asking for money. Or you've held event after event after event, yet money trickles in little dribs and drabs. Or maybe you've paid for things yourself out of your own pocket to avoid asking for money. You wonder, how will I ever raise the money I need to pay for everything so I can do more good in the world? If this sounds familiar, I get it. So many of us nonprofit leaders have wondered the same thing. We've heard that little voice of doubt in our head wondering if it's possible. And I'm here to show you that it is. That's why in this video, I'm going to demystify the process of building a donor base full of people who love your cause, so you don't have to waste any more time searching for rich people or begging for money. People will easily give because they love the work you do. Okay, before I get too far ahead of myself, let me share the system that I've developed after years of trial and error. A system that has worked for me personally and for hundreds of my clients. It's called Right People, Right Message, Right Time. I developed this framework because I got so tired of seeing perfectly wonderful nonprofits struggling to raise the money they need. I struggled myself for way too long before I figured out this system, and now I want to share it with you so you can shorten your learning curve and skip over to the good stuff faster. In 1999, I was the development director for a local food bank and had the responsibility for fundraising placed squarely on my shoulders. There was no training, not much support, just here's the budget, good luck. It was a lot of pressure. I knew I had to figure out fast how to bring in the money we needed because lives were depending on us. Before long, I realized I didn't just need money, I needed it consistently. I needed revenue coming in each and every month to pay for overhead, salaries, program supplies, equipment, and the 1,000 other things it takes to run a nonprofit. I needed predictable, sustainable revenue in order to give the whole organization a sense of peace, that we wouldn't struggle for money, and also so I could sleep at night. I'm sure you know what I mean. But the truth was, I didn't have any formal training in fundraising. I understood marketing, but what I was being asked to do was new to me, and to be honest, I didn't really know where to start. I was scared I'd mess it up. I figured I would have to beg people to give the money, and that didn't sound like fun. Frankly, I dreaded it. If any of this sounds familiar, let me tell you, I know exactly what it's like. There were days when nothing worked and I felt so discouraged, I questioned myself whether I could do it at all. I got really tired of the lackluster results and I knew there had to be a better way. I had an idea that a big donor base was key to predictable, sustainable revenue. And it made sense to me that the more people I had to ask for money, the more money I could raise. So I set out to find a way to build a big, loyal donor base without spending a lot of money on it. It took me about 18 months of throwing spaghetti at the wall to figure out what would stick. But when it did, woohoo! We grew the nonprofit very fast, from about 1,200 donors to 8,500 donors in about 4 years. We grew the organization's budget from about $250,000 to over $1.1 million in the same time. It was awesome. Fundraising became really fun. Now, I know those numbers might seem really big to you. Another organization that I worked for was very small, only in its second year of operation, and the same thing happened. Using the same system I'd figured out at the food bank, I was able to successfully triple the size of the donor base at this nonprofit, going from about 150 donors to over 500 donors, and growing the revenue over $50,000 in about a year. The point is, if you focus on the right things, you can stop the struggle and get into growth mode quickly. And that's what I want for you. I can't stand to see anybody struggling with fundraising. My personal mission is to simplify fundraising for you, help you understand how it works, and get you moving in the right direction faster. Because not only will you know the critical pieces of fundraising you need to put in place, you'll have the ability to basically create money whenever you need it. You'll feel more confident about your ability to raise money this month and next month and every month afterward. And you'll be able to spend more time changing lives and less time worrying about money. Sound good? Let's dive in. I created a simple PDF to help you take notes from this training. You'll see the download link on this page. If you want to hit pause on the video now so you can download your own copy, I'll wait here for you. Once you're ready, we'll continue. As we go through each part of the system, I want you to identify obvious areas for opportunity for your current situation. Okay, you ready? Let's get started. If you want to raise money, you have to ask the right people with the right message at the right time. If you do those 3 things, you'll get a donation every time. It can't not happen. You see, most people mess up because they try to get money from anyone and everyone. In fact, they get so focused on the money that they forget about where the money comes from. People. It's like that story of the goose and the golden egg. If you take care of the goose, the golden eggs keep coming. Neglect the goose and it will die or leave, and you get no more golden eggs. It works the same way with your donors. Take care of your donors and they'll give often, and give big. Ignore them and they'll stop giving. One really common mistake that lots of people make when they're just getting started is to go after rich people. Listen, just because people have money doesn't mean they'll give it to you. Instead of targeting rich people, target the right people because they're far more likely to give. Okay, so who are the right people? It's not everyone. You see, not everyone gives to charity, and of those who do give, they have their favorites. Some people love the animal shelter but don't really care about the arts. Other people are all about their college but don't really care about the homeless. So it makes sense to get clear about who you're looking for. Here are 3 things that can get in your way when you're looking for the right people. First is the passion myth. People don't have to be passionate about your cause to give money. They just have to care. So don't worry about finding people who are as passionate as you are. Just look for those who think that what you're doing is worth supporting. Second is broad appeal. It's easy to think that everyone will care about your cause, but the truth is they won't. When I worked at the food bank, I thought everyone would care about their neighbors going hungry, and while lots of people did, not everybody did. And I had to learn to let go of those who just didn't care, because I'd never be able to convince them to care. Third is inconsistent outreach. You'll never be able to build a big loyal donor base if you only think about finding new donors once or twice each year. You need to develop new donor radar and have it on all the time, because you never know when a volunteer fair or a program event can provide the opportunity to add new donors to your donor family. If you're not open to it, you'll miss that chance. Okay, now that you know some things to avoid, how do you build a big loyal donor base? Well, the easiest way to get started is to create what I call an ideal donor profile. This is a marketing strategy that works every time, and it doesn't have to be real scientific for it to work. Think for a minute about your best donors, the ones who give the most money, or give the most often, or the most consistently. What do they have in common? Think about demographics like sex, age, and occupation. And also think about psychographics like values and interests. The more clearly you can define this average donor, the easier it's going to be to go find more people just like them in the community. I first learned this when I was building the donor base at the food bank. I was at a workshop for food banks from all over the country, and the leader said, "We've done the research and your typical donor is female, 55 plus, educated, volunteers in the community, and attends religious services every Sunday." As I listened, I thought about donors that I knew something about, and sure enough, they matched the description. So I thought, where can I go find more people just like that? And it hit me, women's groups at churches. I knew that if I could go speak to women's groups at churches, I could pick up new donors pretty fast and without it costing much. So I lined up some speaking gigs, put together a great presentation, and off I went. And guess what? It worked like a charm. I was able to leave every presentation with a sheet full of new names and addresses, a handful of checks and cash, and invitations to speak to other groups. Then the next time I asked my donor family for money, most of those new names made a donation. It was sweet. The good news is that this is not rocket science, and you can do it too. Use the worksheet in your handouts to help you define your ideal donor profile. Once you do that, the big question is, where do you find these people easily and in large numbers? Answer that question and you'll be on your way to growing your donor base fast, just like I did. Hands down, this is the fastest way to grow your donor base when your nonprofit is new or young, and it won't cost you much of anything except your time. Now, I know you may be thinking this sounds like a lot of work, and it's so worth doing. Remember, without that big loyal donor base, you'll be scrambling to cover expenses every month. We're talking here about working smarter, not harder. So take the time to work through this exercise. Okay, once you find those amazing new donors, what do you say to get them to give? That's exactly what I'll show you in the next video. This critical skill will serve as the foundation of all fundraising, because having the right message and knowing when to use it will either make or break your fundraising. I'm also going to introduce you to a method of asking for money that helps your donors see immediately how they can make a difference. Once you know exactly what to say, you'll see it's easy to get donations, and I'll show you how in the next video. Before we wrap up today, I'd love to hear from you. Tell me, what would life look like if you could create predictable, sustainable revenue? How would life be different when you have a big, loyal donor base of people who want to help you change lives? Let me know in the comments below. I'm going to read every one and I'll respond to as many as I can. And if you found this video useful, please share it on Facebook, Twitter, or even by sending a friend the URL to this page. What you've learned here today is a simple process for creating predictable, sustainable revenue for your nonprofit, even if you're brand new to fundraising or have a new nonprofit. Donor-based fundraising is a game changer in helping you learn to raise the money you need to fully fund your nonprofit's work. And what you're learning in this workshop puts you on the path to get there. Next up, we'll talk about how to choose the right words and craft the right message to inspire people to give. I can't wait to see you in the next video.